It is July 16th, 2007. I'm Sonic Sons, and I'm trying to write a book, a fantasy story called Tales of Eudo the Wanderer. It's quite a task trying to write a full novel. Rather daunting. I don't have a whole lot written thus far, but I have a few short stories based on this character, which I hope to eventually weave together into, obviously one overarching tale. So I have here a printout of a short story that I actually wrote a few months ago, and I read for my creative writing class in college, and they liked it, so I thought maybe I'd read it to you. And so you see there's the title, and then the line in italics, and then it'll actually start. Earthen Refuge, A Tale of Eudo the Wanderer, by Sonic Sons. In those days I knew no one, and no one knew me. In the forests of eastern Goretto, down the track of the old forgotten roads and nearing the foothills of the snowy mountains, I made my camp in the night. With nothing to protect me, I huddled close to the small fire I had built, gazing forward with the silent remembrance of every night, the solemn resignation towards the sorrow of my soul. I was surrounded by mighty trees, fading into darkness under the cover of a new moon, with only the distant stars to light their way. In each of these lived 1,000 creatures, some now resting and some now waking, but all of them living in heart with the majesty of omniscient nature. And thus I was not among them. There was another, too, in these woods. This much I had known for some time. He stood behind me in the cover of darkness, and though I expected him to leave, or possibly attack, he stood only watching, unaware that I had heard him. At last I spoke. "How long have you been watching me?" I heard a short gasp and turned to see a small boy who had been hiding behind a tree. Not too long, sir." "There's no need to call me sir." I turned back to the fire, and the boy emerged cautiously. He sat next to me, and I glanced at him, wondering when he might notice my skin and flee at the sight. He was perhaps 9 years old, with tousled brown hair and a few freckles, and the expression of curiosity that only a child can produce. He spoke. "What's your name?" I paused. "Eudo." "Eudo? I'm Henry." I hoped that would be the end of it, but soon he continued. "Are you a sorcerer?" I gazed only at the fire. "I was once. No longer." The boy was confused. But I saw you just now, making the fire. You got wood by just thinking about it, and then you made fire without flint or matches or anything." He seemed to brighten, as if he expected me to laugh and pat him on the head for his simple observations. Still I focused on the flames. A true sorcerer can do more than move things and start fires. A sorcerer wields a staff. I have none. "Then doesn't that make you extra special?" He was starting to annoy me. I turned and spoke louder this time. "A sorcerer is a loyal agent of the Federation. A sorcerer wields a staff. I am no sorcerer." Hastening to be rid of him, I held out my hand in proof. "You see this? My skin? I am gray, boy. Gray because I am guilty of crimes against the Federation. Gray because my staff has been taken and my life with it. I am a derelict. I am doomed to die." I turned away, ashamed of myself, and then ashamed of my shame in turn. I felt foolish, too, for showing him my skin. Surely now the boy would tell his parents, and they in turn would alert the authorities. But surprisingly, the boy did not flee. He sat still, chastised but still curious, and reached out to touch my sleeve. He pulled it back a little, and saw again that my hand was gray. "Sorry," was all that he said. We sat there, the two of us, I and my strange companion. as the fire flickered onward in the night. For more than an hour we said nothing, and I didn't know what to think. I never knew what to think. The air was cooling in spite of the fire, and the boy gave a small shudder. "You should go home," I said. "There's nothing to gain from a person like me." "I'm scared," he said. I sighed. "You should be. You're speaking with a criminal." "I'm not scared of you." There was something in his reply that struck me. A kind of pained tone, as if he and I had known each other, and now I was pushing him away. "What's your name?" I asked. "I told you my name," he said timidly. "It's Henry. Henry Lendo. I live in Bramden." "And what are you doing here?" "Got lost," he sniffed. I sighed again and rose to my feet. The leaves of the trees were twitching and turning, as they often did at the onset of autumn. Creatures were moving about, still sure of their purposes. Inside I felt cold, but my body cared not for the presence of the air. Reluctantly I turned to the boy and said, "All right, Henry. Come with me and I'll take you home." He clutched my hand gently, then held on eagerly as I guided him through the forest. Finally we reached Bramden. It was a small village along one of the old roads, surrounded by trees, fed by the northern mine, and insulated from the cares of the world. I envied it. Each home was a circular hut made of wood, and the town itself was encircled by a line of torches to ward off the beasts of the forest. Their light made me uneasy, but as there was no one awake who might see my skin, I continued forward. Henry pointed. "There's my house." I turned to leave. "Where are you going?" he said. "I'm leaving." "You can't leave. You've got to see my house." The boy's affection was irrational. "I don't need to see your house. I'm—" "Henry!" shouted a deep voice. "Daddy!" shouted Henry, and he ran towards the figure that had appeared from another part of the woods. Henry's father met his embrace and lifted him up. "Oh, my boy, did you get lost again?" he said in mock anger. "I keep telling you not to go off exploring like that." "Sorry, Daddy." I ceased to listen. Something wasn't right. Not with the boy and his father, but with something else. I focused my senses. Had I heard something in the distance? Or was I merely being paranoid? Suddenly I realized that the pair had approached me. "Excuse me, sir. My name is Thomas Lendo. I'd like to thank you for helping my son." He held out his hand, but I turned away, unwilling to let him see my skin. The son may have been naive, but surely his father was different. No one trusts a derelict. "No thanks required," I said with my back turned. I attempted to leave. "But, sir—" He stepped forward and put a hand on my shoulder. Impulsively I turned and batted it away. "I'd already told you, no—" In the glow of the torchlight he looked at me, and I at him, and he saw the gray skin of my face, and I realized my mistake. "Stand back!" I ordered, and I held up a hand in warning, ready to attack if necessary. "What, He, bewildered, he obeyed me, and his son followed. I mean you no harm," he stammered. An unnatural sound rose up from behind me, and I spun my head to listen. No, I thought. It couldn't be. But the horn I had heard was no illusion. It sounded twice more, and I knew it was coming. "The Federation," whispered Thomas. I spun back to him. "If you so much as breathe one word to— I can help you." "What?" Surely it was a trap. "I can help you. Come to my house and I'll—" "Don't lie to me. No one trusts a derelict. No one!" I heard the sounds of thundering horses. The Federation soldiers were closer than I had thought. I turned to the forest again, but stopped. Had I heard something? Was there someone in the forest, waiting for me? "What do you plan to do?" said Thomas sharply. "I'll find my own way." The horses were thundering closer. "Please," said Henry, "please come with us." There, through the trees, I could just make out the light of their lanterns. Henry tried to clutch my robe, and I waved him away. "Stay back! I don't need your help!" Henry started to cry as the horses thundered closer. "Now!" said Thomas. "Now, before it's too late!" And for one brief moment I looked at him, and suddenly we were running.